Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Polish grammar series, and today we're going to be talking about the genitive case, so-called Dopełniacz in Polish. So this one might be a bit more tricky than the nominative case. We will be talking about some endings that happen for certain nouns and so on, so it might be a little bit confusing, so you might need to make some notes or rewatch this video, but let's just go ahead and start. So the name of the second case is Dopełniacz, and it is from the Polish verb dopełniać, which means like to complete or to fill in. So the meaning kind of suggests that it completes the meaning of another word, okay, or the sentence. So the questions that the genitive case answers is kogo, czego, which kind of translates to whom or of whom, and what or of what. So just to not confuse maybe this what with like the nominative case what, we will be sticking to the second part, okay? Just so there's no misconception. So of whom or of what. So some nicknames that you can use to, kind of memorize, or it is like a, how do you say it? Like a mnemonic, helpful little thingy, is that this is the of case, which means that is used for possession. For example, the roof of the house in English, right? So this little preposition of just suggests a possession or ownership of something, right? So this is the of case. Something belongs to something or someone, okay? Also, the not case, and it is because it's used for all direct objects in negated sentences. Okay, so for example, I don't have a dog. This sentence is negative or negated. Why? Because there is a not here, okay? I do not have a dog, so it is like an negative meaning, or it is negated. So in Polish, when you make a claim that you do not have something, or when you negate a sentence and then you have a direct object after the verb, this object or the noun would be in a genitive case, okay? It has to be present in the sentence in a genitive case. What is a direct object? It is the direct recipient of the action, okay? So, for example, X does Y. Or X, let's do just action to be even more general, okay? So in this case, with ownership of an animal, okay, the positive sentence, or like a regular form, would be I have a dog, okay? So for example, in a sentence, I have a dog, the X or the first noun is I, okay, is the subject of the sentence. Then there's the have, which is the action. So X performs the action. So I have, okay? And then Y would be the recipient of the action. So X does action on what, okay? So someone does action on what? Okay, I had to take a short break, but I guess, we have finished the not case, and I hope you get the direct what is the direct object. So the last thing, or the last nickname, is the quantity case. And it basically means that you use genitive when there is any sort of quantity. Well, not any. And there is the big asterisk or a big thingy that I will explain in a bit. So it is used after numbers 5 and upish. I will explain it later, okay? So more than 5 or and something else, okay? But this and will be pretty important, but just a second, okay? When we get to the main functions below, I will explain it, okay? And some words of quantity. So basically, English words such as a lot of, some, couple, and stuff like that, okay? Yeah, that's why it is also considered a quantity case. Whenever you want to say a lot of water, some cookies, a couple, 5 cats, 6 cats, stuff like that, that is when this noun that is being, you know, that you use the quantity for, has to be in a genitive case, okay? So, the checklist or the main functions of the genitive case. So basically, how to, you know, just a simple to-do check, is there a genitive case or not? So, possession or of relationship, so basically the of case, to show that something belongs to someone or is a part of something. So for example, Anna's book or the book of Anna in English, this is version in English, and in Polish it would be książka Anny. Książka Anny. Okay, so what is in a genitive case here? It is the name Anna, okay? In nominative case, Anna is just as it is present here with the A at the end, okay? Since the book comes first, so the book of something or someone, that means the second part is in genitive case, okay? And again, the first part, the subject of a sentence or the first thingy will be almost always the nominative case, okay? So, we're starting with the book, okay? Of. So now we're wanting to express the possession, so that's why the second noun or the subject name, whatever, is in genitive case. Okay? I hope it makes sense. So the second example, dach domu. Okay? Dach is roof in Polish. Okay, the roof. So, again, house in Polish is dom in nominative case. So basically the dictionary form. Dom. Dom is house, okay? So why is it dach domu? Why is there an U at the end? Well, because we want to say the roof of the house, okay? So again, the first part is just the subject or the beginning, so it is in nominative case. Boom. And now we want to express the possession. So of the house, dom o. Boom. We're adding the specific ending that informs us that this noun is in a genitive case. Okay? So, nominative, and then this is in genitive case, so we do not have any sort of prepositions, we do not have of or any kind of, other helper words, and we can still figure out that this is the roof of the house, just by this little ending that makes this noun in a genitive case, okay? Okay. So, second function, negation of a direct object. So, when you negate a verb that normally takes the accusative case, the object switches to the genitive. So, we have not done accusative case yet, okay? But it is, the accusative pretty much considers the thing I explained to you earlier, which is the direct object, okay? So the same thingy, I can literally copy it right over here. Applies there, okay? So for example, for having something, X has Y, okay? It is as simple as that. X has Y, so Y in this case is a direct object, and in Polish it would be in an accusative case, okay? So nominative, action, accusative, okay? Because X, so the subject, does some action on Y, okay? So for example, I have a dog. Well, there's a hidden subject ja, okay? Which means I or me, I in Polish. Mam psa. So X is ja, action is mam or have, and the recipient Y is the dog. So that's why it is not pies, ja mam pies. Nope. It is a dog in an accusative case. Why? Because I am doing an action on the dog. What kind of action? Well, I have a dog. I own, right? So that's why there is psa. So it is just a pies or dog in an accusative case. Okay? I hope it makes sense. We will be covering it as well in the video about accusative case. So and also why is the main subject or ja hidden? So you can say, so this is also considered a super valid sentence, and there's no X, right, present in the sentence, or so it seems, or it is hidden. Well, in some languages, such as in Slavic languages, Polish, but it is also the case, for example, in Spanish, if you've ever seen Spanish, the same thing applies. So you can say, yo soy, I don't know, artista, okay? But you can also skip the first word because the way the verb is conjugated, okay, tells you who is performing the action. So because the verb is soy, and soy is only performed by first person, singular, that means this part is kind of redundant, or it is not necessary, okay, to get the full meaning. So that's why it is usually skipped. So the same thing happens in Polish. You can say ja mam psa, which literally is I have dog, right? But since mam is in a form, the verb is in a form that is for a first person singular. So just by the form of this verb, it is already clear that we're talking about the first person. So I am performing the action. So that's why you can skip the first part and just leave this, okay? I hope it makes sense. Okay, but we went on a bit of detour right here. Talking back to the genitive. So, if we have a sentence such as this that uses an accusative case, okay, in a positive, in this structure, right, that X performs action on Y. If we want to negate it, so X does not do an action on Y, then Y changes to genitive, okay? So for example, again, ja is skipped here, so the X is present, but not really. But let's just add it for, you know, the sake of completeness. So I, ja, which is our X, nie mam, so do not have, so that is the action, do not have, and Y is dog. So you might wonder, okay, so it is supposedly genitive here, but it is also the same, but the word seems the same over there in accusative as well. And it is correct. the form is actually the same for both accusative and genitive of the dog. So sometimes it can happen for certain words that the form is similar. But it is still important to, I guess, know that in this case, the dog is in genitive because it will not always be that way that the accusative will be the same as in genitive, okay? So for example, if you don't have a car or something else, let me think about it actually. Okay, yeah, actually the car is a perfect example, okay? So in this case, mam psa, nie mam psa, so the form seems similar. But you cannot rely on having the same form in genitive and accusative. Why? Because, well, let's do this, for example, on the side. Mam samochód. Okay, so it is I have a car. So now we reverse it. So you want to say nie mam samochodu is the correct form in Polish, okay? So as you can see, in this case, the form is exactly the same, but for some other words, it might not. So that's why it is just best to know these rules by heart, okay? This, if there is this form, X does action on Y. So again, I own or have a car. So Y is our car. So yeah, the car is our Y in this case. Okay, that means the Y is in accusative. And yep, samochód is accusative of car. Okay? In a negative sentence, that means X does not an action or on Y. So I do not have a car. So I do not have a car. The Y is in genitive, and that is precisely why the form is different. Okay? So this samochodu is the genitive of a car, and this is the accusative. I hope it makes sense. So you have to remember that in this negative X action Y scenarios, you use genitive on Y, and for a regular positive X does action on Y, the Y will be in accusative, okay? Okay. So now we're going to numbers, which is so actually bad in Polish when you realize it. I mean, for us, native Polish speakers, it is not that weird because we're just used to it, but from the outside, it might look so confusing, okay? So I might actually do another video dedicated to numbers and their grammatical forms in different cases, because it's a little bit weird, okay? But for the sake of completeness, I want you to know everything that there is to know about, you know, the grammar of Polish, pretty much, the core concepts. I don't want to skip anything. So, and it is pretty important after all. So after certain numbers, so after numbers 5 and up, but not all of them. What does it mean, not all of them? We can do a bit of a detour over there. So when you have numbers such as these, yeah. Okay, let's start with these first, okay? If I want to say that I have some amount of cats, okay? So some countable nouns. And you should know that a cat in singular, because it appeared in some previous video, is kot, and plural of kot is koty, okay? So, just as in English you can say 1 cat, 2 cats, 3 cats, 4 cats, 5 cats, and so on and so on and so on. So only the first one doesn't have an S, and then you go with the plural of the noun, okay? So doing the same for Polish. You have jeden kot. So these guys will be just the numbers in Polish as well, okay? So maybe you can practice or learn them, by the way. So jeden kot. Then we have dwa koty. Trzy koty. Cztery koty. Then we have pięć kotów. Sześć kotów. 7 kotów. 8 kotów. 9 kotów. And 10 kotów. Let's leave it at that for now, okay? So, the first one is jeden, and then we have a cat in a singular nominative. Then we have a two, dwa, and we have cats in plural nominative. So far, so good. One cat, two cats, three cats, four cats. But then some weird things is happening, right? Because for five, we have suddenly five kotów, not koty. So what happened? And that is precisely the point or the connection to this video, is that for five and above, it suddenly switches to genitive, okay? So when we want to say that we have five of something, five of X, our noun, the noun becomes genitive. So this is a plural genitive of cat. Okay? It is, first of all, in plural, so it is koty, and then added genitive case to it, kotów. Okay? And then it goes on in the same way. So, 6 kotów, 7 kotów, 8 kotów, 9 kotów, 10 kotów. Okay? But it is not all, but that's not it. That's not all, okay? It does not mean that it will continue to be kotów forever, since 5 and above. No. It continues the same for 11 to up to 20, let me think. 15 kotów, 16 kotów, 17 kotów, 18 kotów, 19, 20 kotów, 21 kotów. Up to 21 actually. Yep, up to 21. It continues to be that way. And suddenly something switches for 22, 23 and 24. We have 22 koty. 23 koty. And 24 koty. Okay? So the first part is actually 20, and then you have 22, 23, 24, okay? And then we are back to nominative plural, so koty. Mam 22 koty, mam 23 koty, mam 24 koty, okay? And for 25, we would be again back to kotów, so 25 kotów, okay? Let's just do 25 kotów. And it would be the same for 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. So the rule basically is, the first one is just a singular noun, singular nominative, boom. And then the rule in Polish language is that if there's a number that ends in 2, 3, or 4, but not 12, 13, and 14, okay? Then you use a nominative plural. So, koty, koty, koty. And the same, for example, for 102. So, the number has to have this and something. Just as in English, there is 12, but there is 22. So it has to have this separate number 2, okay? So there has to be this little thingy right there. So it has to have actual 2, 3, 4 at the end, okay? So maybe this way will be similar. if the number ends in a 2, 3 or 4, 2, 3 or 4, so that means no 12, 13, 14, but 22, 32, 42, 52, 62, 72, 82, 92, 102, 112, nope, 122, yes. Okay, I hope you get it. So no teens, but 2, 3, 4, and then tens plus 2, 3, 4. Okay. If the number ends in any of these, then you have a nominative plural at the end. So koty, just a dictionary plural form of kot, koty. In any other case, you have kotów. So a genitive plural. Okay. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then for 11 up to 21. Then for these guys, of course, you have a break because what I told you just before. And then since 26, we're again back to genitive plural. So it would be 26 kotów, 27 kotów, 28 kotów, 29, 30 kotów, 39, 31 kotów, 32, we're back to nominative plural, 33, 34, and 35, 36, and so on, and so on, and so on, okay? So, we use genitive after numbers 5 and up, but that do not end with 2, 3, 4 or 2, 3, 4 at the end. So I know it is so confusing, so you just have to practice it for different numbers, but that is the precise rule, okay? Okay. Actually, how are we standing with the time? Okay, so it takes a long time, but yeah. Unlucky, but the case system, it is what it is, you know? But fortunately, for these guys, it will be pretty simple, okay? So after words of quantity, so a lot, a little, a bit, many, few, piece of, glass of, kilogram of, so 4 parts of a whole, all of this quantity, I don't know, nouns, verbs, no, like proverbs, I don't know, yeah, prepositions. You also use genitive. So a lot of something, well, since it's of something, you can kind of treat it as the explanation of why there is genitive here, okay? So after using this little words of quantity, the noun that is defined by these is also in genitive, okay? The next thing, after a pretty long detour, after a specific preposition. So there are a set of common prepositions that will require the genitive case. So do, meaning to someone or into something. So that means that X, these prepositions will have this form, X, preposition Y, okay? So the Y, again, the first one will be in nominative case, and the second one will be in genitive case. So for example, flour to, or actually wait, cake to oven, maybe that in that way. So ciasto do piekarnika, piekarnika. There is a at the end of piekarnik, piekarnika. It would be in genitive, okay? And so on with every other preposition. So z or ze, from, out of, for, without, at someone's place, near, next to, during, except for, boom. It all follows this same structure. So X, so someone, for example, X someone, except for, boom, and this boom thingy would be in genitive, okay? After specific verbs, some verbs naturally require or govern the use of the genitive case, and that is precisely connected or directly connected to the direct object thingy. So it is just because some verbs just naturally enforce this structure, okay? So for example, szukać, to look for. So X, look for something. So someone looks for something. So this is this structure in a nutshell, right? So if you look for flashlight, if you look for money, if you look for job or whatever, then you would use the genitive in place of y, okay? So these verbs just naturally use this structure. That's all it is. You don't have to memorize it, but it is pretty helpful to just remember, okay? And last thing, some dates to express the day and month. So on the 5th of May. Now it is also pretty important with this one to know that we're talking about this exact construction. If you just want to stay, if someone asks you what day is it today, what date is it today or something, this will not require genitive, unfortunately. But saying things like this, so on the 5th or on the somewhat of some month, this will be the genitive case, okay? So only this structure. Okay. Okay, great. So after we've spent a lot of time talking about genitive and so many different grammatical things in Polish language, let's finally go to the endings, which is probably the worst of it all. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. So first of all, there are different endings for a singular nouns, different endings for plural nouns, and different endings for adjectives as well, okay? We have not covered adjectives extensively, but it is probably the best place to start introducing some endings for the adjectives as well, right? Since it is the video about the genitive case, I want to show you the genitive for every part of the speech, okay? So, in singular nouns, we have 2 cases of masculine, okay? 2 cases of feminine, a case of neuter. So now I'm debating, yeah, let's just go maybe row by row, even though the neuter will be the simplest one. So masculine, animate. Animate or animate? No, it is not a verb, so I think it is animate, right? So what does animate mean? So animate is everything that is kind of alive. That's the best way I can explain it. So for any masculine nouns that are kind of alive, okay, usually the nominative ending will be a consonant or an A, and the genitive ending will be A. Okay, which will be just added to the basic nominative word. So for example, when you have a student, male student, or just general student, it is a masculine noun, okay? And if you want to make it, it is also animate because it is alive, because it is actual person, right? So it is a living thing. So student becomes studenta. So we just add the A based on this little section genitive ending, okay? The same way we have kot or our cat. A cat is for sure an animate thing because, well, the cat is a living animal. So we also add A at the end, okay? Boom. That's all it is. Then you have the inanimate masculine nouns. So that's where it is pretty tricky because the ending will be either A or U. So for example, table in genitive becomes stołu. So apart from the fact that there is the change in the middle from U to O, we are adding U at the end. So there is the U ending, okay? But for example, for November, which is also a masculine inanimate. Yes, our months are masculine. I think all our months, our meaning in Polish, all months in Polish are masculine, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, all months are masculine, in fact. So for example, for November, we add A at the end. So this is probably the hardest of them all because there is no perfect formula. So some tendencies is that the U happens more often for some abstract nouns such as love or happiness or stuff like this, foreign words, containers and substances, and A for tools, body parts, months, cities. So months you have, for example, over here. And cities would be, for example, my city is called Wrocław, and it is a masculine noun, Wrocław. And in genitive, Wrocław would be Wrocławia. So there is A at the end, Wrocławia. Okay, so month, cities have an A. So unfortunately for this kind of nouns, the best way is to just memorize them, okay, by heart. I know it sucks, but it will always be either A or U, but you just have to memorize, okay? Okay. And also, one super important thing about changes in the middle of the word, in the root of the word. I have actually done some research on my own, and I have gathered some resources about these things, so I will make a separate video that will talk about the root changes, okay? Because it is not particular to a single case, but it is a more general thing that happens across many different cases, okay? So after video about each case, I will probably make a separate video, first of all about the numbers, probably, and then about the root changes or the stem changes when the case also changes, okay? Just to be clear. Okay, so feminine. Feminine nouns that end in A. Actually, feminine nouns that end in any way have a genitive AD ending Y or I. And Y happens after hard consonants at the end. So the last consonant that is present in the word. If it's hard, that means we will have a Y ending. And I after soft consonants. So I presented you the list of soft consonants actually in a previous video somewhere. Just to be clear, maybe let me quickly grab it. Okay, I picked up the fragment about soft consonants from earlier video. So it is these guys, also Y, L, and K or G, okay? So all of these guys, Chi, Shi, Ji, Ji, Ni, I, L, K, G, will have an I ending, okay? So for example, you have first of all, kobieta, kobieta. So the last consonant is t, okay? So it is not present in any of these guys. So that means the ending will be Y, okay? So kobieta, kobiety, okay? Then you have a kitchen, kuchnia, kuchnia, kuchnia. So the last thing, well, it is kind of N, but the N with the I is ni, ni, ni. So it produces ni sound, okay? So it is considered a soft consonant, okay? So all of these guys, chi, shi, ji, ji, ni, would also be considered soft, okay? So since we have a soft, kuchnia, we're just left with kuchni, kuchni, kuchni. Okay? And yeah, and then the same, for example, a night, noc, noc, nocy, nocy. Because t is hard. It's not present in this list, so we're adding Y at the end. Then we have a love. Miłość, miłość, miłość. Where the last consonant is ch. So it is soft, so we're adding I. Miłości, miłości, miłości. And you can probably hear a small difference. This, the first word is actually 2 syllables. Miłość, miłość, miłość. But by changing it to this CI version of this, the sound is similar, but it produces additional syllable. Miłości, miłości, miłość, miłości, miłość, miłości, miłość, miłości. I hope you can hear the difference, okay? I have explained also this thingy, I believe, in the alphabet video. So make sure to check it out if you don't get it. And the last singular noun is neuter. So and any of the endings o, e, and also they have a genitive ending a. So okno, okna. Morze, morza. Imię, imienia. Okay? Boom. So this last one actually is a bit of an exception because there's a lot of stuff added. So we're just not switching out the last one, the L for A, but we're also adding some additional stuff, okay? But in general, it would be switching the last vowel to A, okay? Then we go to plural nouns. So, for plural masculine nouns, okay? Okay, talking about plurals. Sorry, I had to make a short break to just check up on another some resources regarding these things. So since this video is already quite long, I will, don't worry, explain these parts in a nutshell, but just so you know, the usage examples, for example, or some common mistakes, I will just quickly show you so you can pause the video and just try it for yourself or read it for yourself, okay? But regarding the plurals, I will actually show you how you can also access a pretty basic resource regarding the declension or you know how different case systems works in Polish, and it's right there under the Polish morphology article on Wikipedia, actually. So yeah. So as you can see, there is a section for masculine, feminine, and neuter nouns, and I want to quickly you know, take a look at this page, because especially for masculine nouns, the plurals are super technical and super difficult, actually. And since I want to present every possible, you know, option to you that exists in the Polish language, I just want to make it thorough, right? Thorough. Yeah, I hope I pronounced it correctly. So for masculine nouns, we have to take a look at 5 different declension groups, okay? So in most cases, for any of these 5 groups, in genitive plural, there is a possibility that it will end in uf, okay? Uf, uf, everywhere there is uf, okay? So we can, maybe the easiest way to memorize it is that try uf and maybe it will work out, okay? But if you want to go a step further and know the exact possibilities for different nouns, okay? So the simple way would be for me to just say that for masculine nouns in plural, genitive plural, end with uf, okay? And so that's basically what I had in this table right here. So for example, pan becomes panów, stół becomes stołów, so just adding uf at the end, okay? But to make it super complete, I will just quickly read it out to you. So we don't care about any of these things because, well, it's about dative, locative, and nominative cases or something else. Also, I did not mention this in nominative video, so maybe you can try to read it out if you really like, but it is super technical. So again, for you can read it in this way. So for nouns ending in this little thingies, or nouns ending in this consonants that gain palatalization in the oblique cases. So when you transform, for example, the word from nominative to genitive, it gets the I. So the P consonant is softened. It's P. Carp, carpia, pia, pia. The same with W, pavia, via. This V, P, B, mimi. So all of this P, B, mimi, V in genitive singular, or this consonant at the end, the genitive plural is either uf or I. Okay? Only for masculine nouns. Again, masculine, if the nouns end with any of these, then genitive plural is uf or I. If nouns end in k, g, h, the genitive plural is only uf. If they end with any of these guys, and nouns ending in these guys do not gain the softening palatalization, then the genitive is also uf. Okay? And the last thing is personal nouns ending in anin. So personal noun is a specific case of an animate noun which regards only the people, or the people. So no animals, not living things, but only people, okay? If any personal noun ends in anin, it is an or anuf in genitive plural. Okay? So in short, it's mostly uf, the simplest way. But for some complex scenarios, there is a possibility of I, or I, or an anuf also, okay? For feminine nouns, the simplest thing is dropping the last vowel. So, for example, when you have feminine nouns that end with an A at the end, okay? So this table shows the nouns ending with an A. Mapa in plural genitive, map. Granica in plural genitive, granic. So we just drop the last vowel, okay? So that's what I have right here. Vowel drop, boom, last noun is dropped. Last vowel is dropped. Then for any other cases, so not ending with an, so nouns that do not end with an A, that will have an I or Y, so or I at the end, okay? In plural. Okay? Okay. So for A, you just drop, and it is pretty much it. For the other ones, it is a bit tricky because you can add Y or I. Some stuff is happening, okay? For neuter nouns, again, if the noun ends in O or E, these are the basic cases, and you just drop the vowel, okay? Just drop the last vowel. Boom. So miasto in plural genitive, miast. Pole in plural genitive, pól. Again, you have this change right here, don't worry about this, but the ending, just dropping, okay? Okay. Some neuter nouns take or I in the genitive plural, particularly those ending in I that have a prefix. So prefix would be, in this example, narzędzie, which means tool, na, probably. Means on in Polish, okay? So which is just on something. A bit, kind of like this. So in genitive plural, it is actually narzędzi. So just to know that most cases drop the last vowel. Sometimes there will be Y or I at the end. Great. And there are other cases. So when you have a neuter noun that ends with eu, okay, it will be in genitive plural, either become the will be hardened, so there will be a hard consonant present at the end, and it will be either n or t, okay, added to it. So yeah, so for example, imię becomes imion, and it kind of tracks for all the other cases as well, as you can kind of see. Ciele, cielont. So this t will be present in every case, and this n is present in every case, okay? So neuter nouns ending with eu will be in plural in any case, have some on, some n or t added in the middle, okay? Okay. So simplest thing is vowel dropping for feminine and neuter, adding uf for masculine, and there is a possibility of having I or I, okay, in many plurals. Okay. And the last thing is adjectives, but actually adjectives are correct over here. So for masculine, you add ego at the end. For feminine, you add a. For neuter, you also add ego. And for plural, for every single gender, it is ich or ich. Okay. Let me quickly check it. Adjectives, genitive, yeah. It says ich right there, but it is not only the case. Ich also can happen. So, for example, good, dobrego. Okay, because student is a masculine noun. That's why we have to change. Okay, the student is a masculine noun, and it is also present in genitive case here. That's why we have to use the adjective for a masculine genitive noun. That's why dobry becomes dobrego. Okay? Okay. The same thing, for example, with window. We can use also the same adjective. If you want to say a good window, so window in genitive, okna. Okay? And the same would be dobrego okna. So adjective for a masculine, neuter genitive noun is dobrego okna. Okay? Okay. Then the same for example, woman. If you wanted to say good woman, dobrej kobiety. Dobrej. Okay? Adjective for feminine genitive noun. Okay. And for plural dobrych studentów. For example. Okay? Okay. And this ending actually, I'm pretty sure it just depends on the adjective, not on the gender. Because, for example, women would be also dobrych kobiet in plural. Okay, great. So since this video took longer than I thought it would, I'm just gonna leave you with this usage examples that you can pause video and read to yourselves, and maybe recall the previous to-dos when do you use genitive, and then you have some potential pitfalls and mistakes that you can also read out. Okay, so thank you for watching. I know this was a lot, so probably for some things we won't have to cover them in the future, okay, in as much detail as, for example, accusative was also kind of mentioned, so I think it will go a lot smoother. And yeah, see you in the next video.